Baby, you said something the other day. Maybe you didn't even realize the weight of it when it left your lips, but it landed in me like a storm. A single sentence, a single moment, and yet it shook me more than any fight, any silence, any distance ever has. You said, maybe you never really cared. And baby, I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. Because I don't think you'll ever truly understand what you mean to me. How every quiet thing you did, every late night text, every small act of softness, you built something in me that no one else ever could. And yet, in 1 second, it felt like it all cracked, like you were starting to believe the version of me I fought so hard to bury. The one who messes things up, the one who forgets to show love in the ways people need it, the one who's scared to be vulnerable but wants nothing more than to be chosen. I know I haven't always said the right words. I know I haven't always shown up the way you needed. But don't ever think I didn't care. Don't ever think you were just another chapter in my story. Baby, you were the moment my story finally began to mean something. It hurt. God, it hurt. Because all I've ever wanted was to be enough for you. But that sentence, it made me feel like I've already failed. That somewhere along this journey, my silence became louder than my love. And now you're questioning everything I thought was unshakable between us. I never wanted to be a source of pain for you. I wanted to be your calm, your softness, your safe place. But I get it now. I get that sometimes love doesn't just need to be felt. It needs to be seen. And maybe I was so busy loving you in my own way that I forgot to speak the language of your heart. Baby, you have no idea how many times I've replayed that moment. Not just what you said, but the way you said it, the tone in your voice, the hurt behind your eyes, that silence after your words. It was louder than anything I've ever heard. And since then, I've been carrying this storm inside me, quietly, alone. Not because I don't want to reach for you, but because I don't even know if I deserve to. When you said, maybe you never cared, something inside me shattered. Because that's the furthest thing from the truth. I cared too much. That was the problem. I cared so deeply that it terrified me. You made me feel things I didn't know I could feel. Vulnerability, safety, real connection. And I didn't know how to hold it without breaking something, without breaking you. So instead, I distanced myself. I pulled away. I became quiet. Not because I stopped loving you, but because I loved you so much, I didn't want to mess it up. But in trying not to hurt you, I did the very thing I feared the most. I did hurt you. And now, here I am, with all the words I should have said lying heavy on my chest. Words like, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. You make me want to be a better man. I notice every detail, even when I pretend I don't. I've never been this scared to lose someone before, but I didn't say them when it mattered. I thought I had time. I thought you'd just know. I thought the way I looked at you would be enough to prove that I was all in, even when my actions didn't always show it. And I hate myself for that, for thinking love could survive without expression, for letting you feel like you were standing in this alone. You were never alone, baby. I was always with you, maybe not in the loud, obvious ways, but in the quiet, unshakable parts of my soul where your name still echoes. So if this message reaches you at a time when your heart is aching, please know this isn't me trying to explain things away. This is me showing up. Finally, this is me saying the words I should have screamed from the beginning. I cared. I care, still. And if you'll let me, I'll show you in every way I failed to before. Baby, you once said that I don't open up, that I hide behind half smiles and vague answers, that I speak in circles when it comes to my heart. And you were right. I did. I do. Not because I'm cold, but because I'm afraid. Afraid that if I truly let someone in, if I truly let you in, you'd see the parts of me that I still struggle to face myself. The fears, the flaws, the scars from old wounds I never let heal. You'd see the boy inside the man, the one who was always told he had to be strong, silent, unshaken. But you were the first person who didn't run from my silence. You leaned into it. You held my hand when I didn't know how to ask. You spoke to my soul even when my lips couldn't return the favor. You gave me safety, softness, space, and I, in my fear, took it for granted. I assumed you'd always be there, because love like yours feels eternal. It doesn't come with warnings, it comes with grace. And yet, here we are. Me on one side of this invisible wall, you wondering if I ever even cared. And the truth, baby, is that I cared so much it paralyzed me. I was so afraid to lose you that I pushed you away before you had the chance to leave on your own. Isn't that tragic? That we ruin the very thing we crave most, just because we don't believe we're worthy of keeping it. I hear your silence now too, and it cuts deep, but I won't beg. Not because I don't want you back, but because I respect your pain. I respect your healing. And I know I don't have the right to demand anything from the heart I once bruised, but what I can offer is truth. I was wrong. I was lost. And I am sorry for the words I never said, for the words I did say that hurt you, for the nights you cried alone while I stayed quiet, thinking I had time. If I could go back, I wouldn't just do things differently. I'd be different, because the truth is, I never stopped loving you. I just didn't know how to show it in a way you could receive. And for that, I carry the weight every single day. Baby, the truth is, I've never stopped thinking about that moment. The one where you looked me in the eyes, and I saw something shift. Like you were suddenly seeing me differently. Not the man you fell in love with, but the one who had slowly begun to disappoint you. And that broke me. Because you didn't scream. You didn't curse me out. You didn't beg or plead. You just looked tired. Tired of waiting. Tired of hoping. Tired of hoping. Tired of holding on to a love that felt one-sided, even though I swear it never was. And that's what hurt the most, that I made you feel like you were alone in something that was always sacred to me. That my silence made you question the one thing I never wanted you to doubt. How deeply, devastatingly, completely, I love you. People think the loudest pain comes from screaming or fighting, but I know now, it's the quiet that kills. It's waking up every morning and checking your phone, hoping to see your name and not finding it. It's hearing your favorite song in a grocery store and having to pretend like it doesn't rip you apart from the inside out. It's seeing someone who looks like you from behind, and for a split second your heart leaps, only to fall harder when you realize it's not you. That's been my world since we drifted. I've tried to move on, to distract myself, to fill the void with people, noise, work, anything that could numb the ache, but nothing sticks. No one feels like home. No one has that same laugh. No one knows how to calm my storms with just one glance, the way you did. You were my anchor, and I let the tide carry you away because I didn't know how to swim in my own emotions. But I do now, because you taught me. You taught me what presence means, what real connection means. You didn't just love me, you saw me, and no one's ever done that. No one's ever dared to sit with all my contradictions, all my chaos, and still say, I'm here. And now, I'm the one standing in the ruins, praying for a second chance I may never get. So, this message, these words, they're not just a letter, they're a lifeline. One last whisper in your direction, hoping that maybe, just maybe, you still believe in what we once were, in what we still could be. Baby, there's a strange kind of loneliness that comes not from being alone, but from knowing exactly who your soul belongs to and realizing they're no longer within arm's reach. That's what I live with now. It's not the absence of people around me. It's the absence of you. In the spaces that matter most, I find myself standing in familiar places, surrounded by familiar faces. But everything feels dimmer now. Every color feels a little faded. Every laugh feels slightly hollow, because the one person who used to make everything brighter, you, isn't standing next to me anymore. And it's not because you stopped loving me. It's because I made it too hard for you to keep loving me. I turned your warmth into confusion. I turned your patience into exhaustion. I took something divine and I let my own unhealed self distort it. But God, baby, I never meant to. I never woke up one day and decided to let you hurt. I never thought, even for a second, that my walls could cast such long shadows over your heart. I thought I was protecting you by staying silent, by holding back. But I see now, I was only protecting myself from the fear of being vulnerable, from the fear of losing control, from the fear of being truly seen. And now, I'm living through the very thing I feared most, life without you. People talk about closure like it's something neat and final, but this, what we had, there's no clean ending here. No quiet exit, no tidy goodbye. It lingers in the way I reach for my phone late at night, in the way I almost send a message and then delete it, in the way I still turn my head when someone says your name in passing. You're stitched into the fabric of my days, and there's no undoing that. And you know what scares me the most? That maybe you've already begun to forget. Maybe you've started to unlove me. Maybe you're laughing again, soft and free in someone else's presence. And as much as that thought breaks me, a deeper part of me whispers, you deserve that. You deserve someone who never makes you question your worth. Someone who doesn't need a storm to realize the value of the sun. But even if that person isn't me anymore, even if I'm just a memory now, I want you to know this. You changed me. You cracked something open in me that will never close again. You were the mirror that showed me who I truly am. Beneath the fear, beneath the silence, beneath the false strength I wore like armor. And whether or not you ever return to my arms, I'll carry that reflection with me forever. Baby, I've had nights where I couldn't sleep, not because of noise, but because of memory. because of the sound of your voice echoing in places I thought I had forgotten. The way you used to say my name, not like it was just a word, but like it held meaning, like it was home. I miss that. I miss you. But more than anything, I miss the version of myself I was when I was with you. Because when you looked at me, I believed I was capable of being more than I had ever been before. Now, I look in the mirror and I don't recognize the man staring back. Because something in me dimmed the day you said those words. It feels like you don't even care. And I know now that those weren't words thrown in anger. They were words spoken from deep, painful truth. A truth you had carried alone for too long. A truth I refused to see. Until you were forced to say it out loud. And that's on me. I've thought about what I would say to you if I had just one more chance. Not to start over, but just to hold space. To sit beside you in silence and let you feel me there. Not as someone desperate for forgiveness, but as someone who finally understands what they ruined. I wouldn't come with explanations. I wouldn't come with promises. I'd just sit there and say, I see you. I hear you. I honor the way you loved me, even when I was hard to love. You see, baby, the pain isn't just that we're apart. It's that you loved me right, and I didn't know how to receive it. You gave, and I deflected. You reached out, and I retreated. You built bridges, and I kept showing up with fire. Not because I wanted to burn us down, but because I didn't think I deserved to walk across into something that pure. But you taught me love wasn't about deserving. It was about showing up anyway. And now, even in your absence, that lesson stays with me. In the quiet, in the grief, in the healing. I know I can't undo what's been done. I know I can't unsay the silence or rewind the moments I missed. But if love means anything at all, it means hoping, even in the dark. It means holding space for someone's healing, even if you never get to witness it firsthand. So baby, if you're out there listening, if even a small piece of your heart still feels me in the quiet, know that I'm not asking for another chance. I'm just saying, you were my once in a lifetime. And even if that lifetime was short, I will carry it with me forever. Baby, there's something I've never said out loud. Something I was too ashamed to admit, even to myself. But if these words ever reach you, I need them to be real. So here it is. You were the only person I never had to pretend around. And somehow, I still found a way to push you away. That's what I can't forgive myself for. You saw me before I saw myself. You believed in the man I could be, even when I was stuck in the shadows of who I used to be. You stood beside me when I was unsteady. You gave when I had nothing to return. You poured light into places no one dared to look, and I mistook your light for something that would always stay. I thought I had time. I thought you'd keep waiting. But love, real love, doesn't wait forever. It gives you the chance to grow, and if you don't, it leaves. Not out of spite, but out of survival. Now I'm standing here, surrounded by the echo of everything I never said, everything I didn't fight for, every hug I didn't return fully, every moment I could have pulled you closer, but chose distance instead, because I didn't know how to accept love without condition. You deserved better, and maybe that's the most painful truth I've ever had to swallow. You deserved someone who didn't make you question yourself, someone who wouldn't make you feel like loving them was a full-time battle. You deserved warmth, presence, consistency, not silence, not confusion, not the storm I became. And still, in the quiet hours, when the world goes still, I imagine you somewhere, smiling again. Maybe not because of me, but despite me. And strangely, even through the ache, that gives me peace. Because if I couldn't be the man who held your heart the right way, at least I can be the man who hopes you found someone who does. But baby, if there's even a flicker of you that still wonders if any of this was real, if you ever question whether I loved you the way you loved me, please don't. Because I did. I do. In ways I never understood before you. In ways I may never understand fully again. You taught me what love feels like, what it costs, and what it means to lose it when you forget to treasure it. And I will spend the rest of my life holding that lesson in the space where you once stood, baby. I think the hardest part about losing you wasn't just the silence. It was realizing I had to face myself. For the first time, without you standing there as my reflection, you used to be the mirror that helped me see myself clearly. And when you walked away, all I had left was the broken glass I refused to face for years. But I faced it, slowly, painfully, truthfully. And in that shattered reflection, I saw him, the boy behind the walls, the one who learned to pretend he didn't care because caring always got him hurt, the one who learned to be cold because warmth made him feel vulnerable, the one who never believed he could be truly loved unless he earned it, proved it, or bled for it. You didn't ask for blood. You didn't ask for perfect. You asked for real, for presence, for honesty. And I didn't know how to give that. Not because I didn't want to, but because I had never learned how. But now, I'm learning, and I want you to know, I'm not growing just to win you back. I'm growing because you opened a door in me that can never be closed again. You made me realize that real love doesn't just demand feelings. It demands integrity, consistency, self-awareness. You taught me that love is not a promise. It's a practice, a daily choice. Though I'm choosing it, even if I do it alone, even if you never see it. Because if loving you has taught me anything, it's that I never want to show up in anyone's life half-built again. I never want to be someone who takes and forgets to give, who hurts and hides, who loves but refuses to say it out loud. You made me braver without even trying. You made me want to be better, not because you asked, but because your presence was a reminder that I could be. And no matter how much time passes, no matter where this life takes us, I will never forget that. So if you ever hear whispers in the quiet, if you ever feel the wind carry something familiar into your day, it might just be my love, still surrounding you, still grateful, still blooming in the spaces where your soul touched mine. Because, baby, even if we never find our way back to each other, you will always be the one who changed my direction, baby. There comes a moment in every soul's journey where holding on becomes heavier than letting go, and I never thought I'd say this, but I've reached that moment. Not because I love you any less, but because I finally love you enough to set you free from the version of me that couldn't love you right the first time. I've cried more than I ever thought I could. Not loud tears, not the kind you show the world. Quiet ones, the kind that sit in the corner of your eyes when a memory hits you out of nowhere. The kind that burn because they're not about anger. They're about grief, and that grief doesn't come from losing you to someone else. It comes from losing the chance to be the one who made you feel safe. That's what I regret most. Not the distance, not the mistakes, but the fact that when you looked into my eyes searching for home, you found confusion instead. And now when I close my eyes, I see your face, not angry, not bitter, but tired of waiting, tired of hoping, tired of asking for the kind of love that should have been yours without question. And it breaks me. I used to think love meant fighting to keep someone close. Now I understand. Real love is sometimes stepping back so they can finally breathe, so they can find the peace you couldn't give them, even if your heart was full of intention. Because love without healing becomes weight. And baby, I never wanted to be your burden. So maybe this is my way of saying, I'm learning to carry you differently now. Not in desperation, not in regret, but in reverence. With a heart that doesn't beg for you to return, but prays that you're smiling somewhere. Really smiling, not just pretending to be okay. If I ever cross your mind, and I know I still might, I hope it's not with bitterness. I hope it's with softness. I hope you remember the good days, the small moments, the quiet joy, because those moments, they were real to me. Even if I didn't know how to say it then, I do now. You were my safest place, and even in this silence, your memory still feels like shelter. And if I'm lucky enough to ever stand in your presence again, even as a friend, even as a stranger who once mattered, I promise I'll look at you with the eyes of someone who finally learned the cost of careless love. Because this time, baby, I won't just see you, I'll recognize you. Baby, do you know what still haunts me? It's not the fights. It's not the misunderstandings. It's not even the silence. It's all the things I never said when I had the chance. I should have told you more often how breathtaking your presence was. How the way you laughed, even on your worst days, gave me the strength to face mine. I should have held your hand longer in those quiet moments when you were trying to be strong for both of us. I should have said thank you when you gave parts of yourself just to make me feel less alone. But I didn't. And now I sit here, rehearsing those unsaid words like a broken song, playing in my chest over and over again. The truth is, I heard everything your silence ever screamed. I saw how you were breaking while still trying to hold us together. I felt the way your love shifted from hopeful to hurt, from soft to guarded, and still I stayed quiet. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't know how to be the man you needed. But I'm learning now. I'm learning that love isn't just what you feel. It's what you do with those feelings. It's showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. It's staying when it would be easier to shut down. It's having the courage to say, you matter to me, before they're already halfway out the door. And I failed you there. But if I could go back, if I could just rewind time for a single moment, I'd look into your eyes and say the one thing that could have changed everything. I see you. I choose you. even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Because baby, you were not just someone I loved. You were the one who taught me what love is supposed to be. So now, every time I see a sunset that reminds me of your favorite color, or hear that one song you used to hum when you were lost in thought, I close my eyes and I speak into the air. I'm sorry. I see you. I honor you. I love you. And if there's still space left in your heart for even a flicker of what we used to be, I promise, not with words, but with presence, that I'll never let you feel invisible again. Even if I have to love you from a distance for the rest of my life, I will make sure that love is gentle, that it uplifts you, that it never demands, only supports. Because that's what you, baby, I don't know if you'll ever truly understand what you meant to me. Not because I didn't show it, but because sometimes, even when love is overflowing, we still don't know how to hold it right. I didn't know how to keep something so precious without letting my own fear distort it. You see, when you told me what I was, when those words came from your mouth, the ones that pierced deeper than you'll ever know, it wasn't just the pain that hit me. It was the truth behind them, the truth I tried to ignore. The truth I kept burying with excuses like I didn't mean it, or you misunderstood me, or I'm just not ready. But maybe you were right. Maybe I was everything you feared I was becoming. Not because I wanted to hurt you, but because I was still hurting myself. And instead of healing, I let my broken pieces cut you. There are days now where I walk through familiar places, and suddenly everything feels foreign. A coffee shop we visited, a street we crossed together, a place we laughed until we forgot the world outside us even existed. Now, all those places feel hollow, because the echo of your absence fills every space I used to take for granted. People ask if I'm okay, and I say yes. I smile, I carry on, but deep down, it still feels like I'm living in a version of life where something sacred went missing. And the more I grow, the more I reflect, the more I realize you didn't leave because you wanted to. You left because you had to. Because staying with someone who isn't ready to see you the way you deserve to be seen, that's a slow kind of heartbreak that no one should endure. I know that now, and I forgive you for walking away. May importantly, I forgive myself for the boy I was when I let you down. Because healing doesn't mean pretending the pain never happened. It means honoring the lessons and becoming the man who would never repeat that mistake again. So here I am, still standing, still loving, still learning. Not for applause, not for a second chance, but because your love changed me in ways that can never be undone. You are not a chapter, you are the turning point. And even if the rest of the story is written without you, your name will be etched on every page as the moment everything changed. Baby, I used to think that silence meant it was over, that distance meant the end. But now I know. Silence doesn't always mean absence. Sometimes, silence is just space. A sacred space where the soul is forced to sit with the lessons it never wanted to learn. And I've been sitting with them, baby, in the quiet nights when the world slows down and there's nothing left to distract me. Your memory comes back, not as noise, but as stillness, a presence, like you're there without being there, like you're reminding me that the way I loved you was never the problem. It was the way I handled that love that needed to change. I mishandled your heart, not violently, not intentionally, but carelessly, like someone who found treasure and didn't know what it meant, like someone who thought the stars would always stay, so he stopped looking up. And now, I look up all the time. I look for signs, for moments, for any whisper of you in the wind, not because I'm stuck, but because I finally see. Love isn't about holding on too tightly. It's about holding honestly. It's about showing up even when your hands are shaking. It's about saying, I was wrong without expecting forgiveness. It's about loving someone enough to grow, even when they're not watching anymore. And that's what you did for me. You loved me so deeply, so purely, that even after you walked away, I kept growing, not because I wanted to impress you, but because your love gave me a glimpse of who I could be, and I couldn't unsee it. You saw the man buried beneath the silence, the sarcasm, the emotional walls. You saw the boy who just wanted to be enough, and instead of mocking him, you reached out your hand. I wish I had reached back more often. I wish I had let my ego break before your heart did. I wish I had chosen us sooner, but baby, I'm choosing now. Every day, even if it's alone, even if it's too late. Because love, real love, doesn't stop just because the story didn't end the way we imagined. It becomes the foundation for the person you rise into after the fall. Baby, if I could go back and relive just one moment, it wouldn't be the first kiss. It wouldn't be the late night talks. It wouldn't even be the day we fell in love. It would be the moment right before I hurt you, because that's the moment I wish I had paused and chosen differently. I see it so clearly now. The look in your eyes, not angry, not cold, but disappointed. Disappointed that I didn't fight harder, that I let fear win, that I let your softness meet a version of me that didn't know how to receive it. You deserved a love that lifted you, not one that left you doubting your own worth. And it wrecks me to know that love was supposed to come from me. People ask me why I still talk about you like you're here, why I still use we when it's been just me for a long time now. And I just smile, because they don't understand that some connections, they don't end. They just change shape. They live in different forms, in a glance. A song, a scent, a dream that still feels too real to shake off in the morning. You were never just someone I loved. You were the mirror that showed me my soul. Flawed, raw, but capable of more than I ever believed. And when you said those words, that one line that cut deeper than any goodbye ever could, maybe you never cared. I didn't defend myself. I couldn't. Because in your eyes, I saw the girl who gave everything, and the boy who didn't know how to hold it. And that boy had no right to speak, only to listen, to remember, to learn. Now I do things differently. When I love someone, I tell them. When I miss someone, I let them know. And when someone gives me their heart, I treat it like the sacred gift it is. Because I learned through you what happens when you don't. I live my life now with one unspoken promise echoing in everything I do. Never again will I let someone I love wonder if they matter. You mattered. You always did. You still do. And if all I have now is this quiet, invisible love, then so be it. Because even in the silence, you taught me to love louder. Baby, sometimes I wonder if you ever cry in the middle of the night like I do, not from weakness, but from memory, the kind of memory that creeps in when everything else is quiet, the kind that doesn't knock, it just enters, and suddenly you're back in that room, that moment, that choice. And for me, that moment plays over and over again. The one where you looked at me, eyes full of hope, lips trembling with unspoken pain, and asked, "Am I asking for too much? God, if only I could go back and shake the man I was in that moment. If only I could tell him, no, she's not asking for too much. She's asking for the bare minimum that someone who truly loves her should already be giving. She was asking to be seen, heard, held. And you were too busy protecting your ego to protect her heart. That's the part that breaks me now. Because you never asked for diamonds. You never demanded perfection. You asked for presence, for consistency, for truth. And instead, I gave you doubt. I gave you distance. I gave you just enough to keep you hopeful and never enough to keep you healed. But baby, what you didn't know then, what I couldn't articulate then, was that I was still healing from battles I never told anyone about. I didn't know how to be loved without questioning it. Didn't know how to stay without feeling trapped. Didn't know how to say, I'm scared, without turning that fear into anger or silence. You were loving a man still learning to love himself. And yet, you loved me anyway. That's what haunts me now. Not your absence, but the way you stayed longer than you should have, hoping I'd see the light you were handing me all along. Then you left. And now, I carry that light with me, every day. I carry it when I look in the mirror and try to forgive the man I was. I carry it when I meet people who see glimpses of you in my eyes. I carry it when I pray at night and whisper your name, not in desperation, but in gratitude. Because even if you never come back, even if you've moved on, even if someone else now gets the version of you I never learned to cherish, I'll still thank God for your existence, for your love, for your scars, for your silence, for your goodbye, because without them, I wouldn't be this man. And maybe that's your real gift, not the love that stayed, but the love that transformed me when it left. Baby, I don't know if you'll ever understand the way you stayed with me even after you left. That sounds strange, I know, but some people never leave, not really. They linger in the quiet between thoughts, in the pauses of songs, in the weight of unsent messages. You're not a memory I packed away in a box labeled past. You're a presence I still speak to in the dark, a heartbeat I still hear when everything else goes silent. When I lost you, it didn't feel like a breakup. It felt like a death. But the strangest part was, I didn't even realize I was the one who caused it. I kept blaming timing, circumstances, external things I couldn't control. But deep down I knew it was me. It was the way I held back, the way I made you question what you meant to me, the way I loved you in silence when your soul was begging for words. I made you doubt the one thing I should have made you sure of. My love. It wasn't just what I failed to say. It was how I failed to show up. When you needed reassurance, I offered logic. When you needed warmth, I gave distance. When you needed a partner, I became a puzzle, one you kept trying to solve, hoping there was something beautiful at the center. But I made it too complicated. And love, Love is never supposed to feel like solving a riddle. It's supposed to feel like coming home. And you were my home. But I treated you like a stop along the way. Not because I didn't care, but because I didn't think I deserved a love like yours. You saw right through me. You saw the broken boy hiding beneath the confident words. You saw the old wounds I never told anyone about. You saw the guilt I carried like armor and the fears I tucked beneath my silence. And still, you stayed. You stayed long enough to show me what unconditional love looked like. But I was too blind to receive it in the moment, and too late when I realized what I lost. Now, I find myself doing the things we used to do, alone. Listening to our favorite songs and mouthing the lyrics like a prayer. Rewatching those shows you loved, not because I care about them, but because it's the closest thing I have to you. Sometimes, I even check the time and think, she used to call around now. I sit with my phone in my hand like muscle memory, only to remember it doesn't ring anymore. I wonder if you still talk about me, if my name ever slips into your conversations, if your friends still ask about me and you brush it off like it's nothing, like I'm nothing. But I know I'm not nothing to you. I know, because we were never ordinary. We were always more. I used to think love meant fireworks, passion, big moments. But you showed me love in the small things. The way you remembered my coffee order, the way you checked if I ate, the way you laughed at my worst jokes just so I wouldn't feel unseen. And I ruined that, not with cruelty, but with carelessness. And carelessness is sometimes worse than hate, because it's what makes someone who was once your world feel like a ghost inside your life. I don't know where you are now or who you're becoming, but I pray every single day that the version of you out there now is being loved better than I ever did, that you're being looked at with wonder, that someone is reminding you how magical your soul truly is. Because if you're still doubting your worth because of me, then I've failed in more ways than one. You deserved security, not second guessing. You deserved arms that didn't let go so easily. You deserved to be someone's always, not their almost. But if there's still even a small part of your heart that hasn't hardened toward me, then let me say this. You didn't imagine us. You weren't asking for too much. You weren't dramatic. You were brave. You were real. You were everything. And I'm sorry for not seeing it while I had the chance to honor it. I carry you in everything I do now. In every way I choose to be better. In every moment I pause and ask myself, would she be proud of the man I'm becoming? Because even if you're not watching anymore, I want to be a man worthy of your memory, not just your love. Your memory. Because that's the real heartbreak, isn't it? That someone can be everything to you and still become just a story you tell yourself in the dark. But I never want you to be a story. You were the change, the lesson, the turning point in a life that was heading nowhere before you. I loved you then, I love you now, and even if I never hear your voice again, I'll still carry this love like a silent vow. Because real love doesn't ask for attention. It doesn't need reminders. It just exists, unshaken, unmoved, undeniable. You were my miracle in human form, and I was too blind to see the divine in front of me. But now I see, now I feel, and I remember, and maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of something new. Not a reunion, not a return, but a redemption. The kind of redemption that says, I see now, I understand now, and I will never let this lesson go to waste. You weren't just a chapter in my life. You were the book, the story, the one I couldn't put down even when the pages became hard to turn. And now, I don't want anyone else writing endings I don't believe in, because my heart, this heart you cracked open, still believes in us. Not in a romantic movie script way, not in a fantasy built on hope or longing, but in a quiet, sacred, soul truth kind of way. The kind that knows not all love ends when the connection breaks. Some loves begin their real journey there. I used to think the hardest part was losing you, but it wasn't. The hardest part was realizing how long you stayed, despite everything I lacked. How patient you were with my confusion. How loyal you remained while I tested the very foundation of your love. And how you still kept showing up, day after day, moment after moment, until I gave you no choice but to stop. And that's what hurts the most, that you didn't want to leave. You had to, because I made the space between us too painful to live in. I was so afraid of losing control that I never noticed I was losing you. Slowly, quietly, through every delayed reply, every unspoken truth, every wall I built in the name of self-protection, I was pushing you away, and even then, you tried. You still reached for me, still tried to believe in the parts of me I didn't believe in myself. That's what real love looks like, and I didn't know how to hold it. I wasn't taught to. I wasn't ready. But that doesn't mean I didn't feel it, because baby, I felt everything. I still remember the night your message came in, the one where your words felt final, the one that didn't scream or beg, it just accepted, and that was somehow more heartbreaking than anger, because when someone who's been fighting for you finally stops, it's not relief, it's regret, deep, echoing regret that crawls into your bones and sits with you in the silence. That's when I knew it was real, that you had finally let go of what you once believed could survive anything. And I broke, not dramatically, not loudly, but the kind of break that changes the wiring of your soul. I didn't know who I was without your presence in the background of everything I did. Your love had been my compass, even when I acted like I didn't need direction. And suddenly, I was lost. Completely, utterly, and painfully lost. I tried to distract myself with noise, with people, with anything that felt like movement, but nothing filled the space you left. Nothing soothed the ache of missing someone who once made the world make sense. And now, even on the days when I seem okay, even on the days I smile, laugh, appear fine, there's still a part of me whispering your name like a prayer. You know what's strange? I still think about the way you looked at me when you were hopeful, before the pain, before the walls. That look in your eyes like I was your world, like you saw something in me that even I couldn't see. That's the image that haunts me most, because now when I close my eyes, I don't just remember how you left. I remember who I became because of you. You cracked me open in the most sacred way. You held up a mirror to all the things I buried, all the wounds I hid behind ego and pride. And you loved me anyway. You loved me in the raw, in the broken, in the becoming, and I failed to honor that. But baby, I promise you this. have never loved anyone the way I loved you. Not because you were perfect, but because you were real. You were honest. You were light in the places I never thought could be lit. And if I spend the rest of my life trying to become a man worthy of the way you once looked at me, then maybe your love wasn't wasted after all. Sometimes I think about what I'd say if we ever spoke again. Would I apologize? Would I try to explain? Or would I just look into your eyes and let the silence speak for me? Because I know now that words aren't always enough. And maybe you don't need my explanations. Maybe you've already made peace with our story. But if there's even one corner of your heart that still wonders if I ever truly cared, let me answer that clearly. Yes, with every piece of me, with every breath, even when I was silent, even when I was distant. I cared more than I knew how to express. And my biggest regret isn't that I lost you. It's that I made you feel like you weren't worth holding on to. You were never the problem. You were the answer, the remedy, the rare kind of love that comes once and never quite lets go. And I let fear convince me to run from the very thing that was healing me. Now, I sit with that. Every day, I sit with the truth of what I lost, and I use it. I let it change me. Let it humble me. Let it teach me how to love better, speak softer, listen deeper. Because no matter what happens in this lifetime, whether our paths cross again or remain distant, I want you to know that you mattered. You changed me. And that is something no amount of silence, time, or distance could ever erase. You left fingerprints on my soul. And even if you find someone else who brings you joy, who offers you the kind of love I couldn't, I'll still be grateful you once chose me. That you once believed in me. That you once loved me with a kind of purity I'm still learning to give. You are not just a part of my past. You're a compass in my becoming. And wherever life takes me, I'll carry you. Not as a wound, but as a whisper. A guiding light. A sacred echo that reminds me what it means to be loved deeply and to never take that love for granted again. Baby, if you've listened to me this far, then I know there's still something in your heart, something tender, something open, even if just a sliver of light remains where the door once was wide. And I want you to know from the deepest place inside me that I don't take that lightly. I know what it cost you to love me. I know what it cost you to walk away. I know what it cost you even now, just to hear my name whispered in your soul. I don't pretend to deserve that kind of grace anymore, but I do carry it with reverence, because the kind of love you gave me, it didn't just mark me, it rebuilt me. In the quiet, in the storm, in the silence after you stopped waiting. You may not believe this, but you didn't just leave behind a man who made mistakes. You left behind a man who woke up, who sat in his pain, who stopped pointing fingers and started looking in the mirror. And in that reflection, I didn't see the confident face I used to wear when I was trying to impress you. I saw the boy who was afraid to be seen. The man who had never learned how to stay. The partner who failed to make you feel safe because he didn't know how to feel safe in himself. You saw all of that before I did. You loved me anyway. But baby, that version of me isn't who's talking to you now. This man, the one whose voice you're hearing now, has walked through fire since you left. He has cried in the dark where no one could see. He has questioned everything, not because he's weak, but because he finally got honest with himself. And the first truth I admitted was that I never stopped loving you. Not for a second, even when I was quiet, even when I seemed distant, even when I acted like I had moved on. I didn't, because you weren't just someone I loved. You were home, and losing you was like losing the only map I ever had. But maybe I had to get lost to truly understand what it meant to choose you, not from a place of need, not from fear, not from guilt, but from clarity, from truth, from the man I am now, who isn't perfect, but is finally whole enough to admit how deeply he broke what was sacred. And I'm not standing here asking for a second chance out of desperation. I'm standing here because the love I have for you never left. It just had to grow up. You see, there's a difference between wanting someone because they complete you and wanting them because you want to add to their life. I used to want you because you made me feel alive. Now, I want you because I want to give life back to the woman who gave it so freely to me. But only if your heart still holds space. Only if it feels right. Because I will not rush healing. I will not demand forgiveness. I will not manipulate you with memory. I only offer you this truth, that I'm still here, still honoring what we had, still carrying your name in a place no one else can reach. Sometimes I dream of what it would feel like to hold you again. Not like before, but with presence, with stillness, with no walls between us, just heart to heart, breath to breath, soul to soul. And sometimes I wonder if we were meant to come back to each other, not as who we were, but as who we became because of the separation. Maybe love doesn't die. Maybe it waits. Maybe it evolves. And maybe, if we're lucky, it finds its way home. But baby, even if that doesn't happen, even if you've chosen a different road, I'll still carry you like a sacred promise. One I whispered to the stars the night I realized you were my lesson, my lighthouse, and my once-in-a-lifetime love. And if this is the last time you hear my voice, then let these be the words I leave you with. I'm sorry for the pain I caused. I see now what I was too afraid to see then. I honor every part of you, your strength, your softness, your silence. I thank you for showing me what love could be, even when I didn't know how to hold it. And if there is still space inside your heart for me to rebuild that trust, not with promises, but with presence, I will take every step with reverence. And if there isn't, if your healing took you elsewhere, then I will still celebrate your joy from afar. Because real love doesn't beg. It respects, it releases, and it prays for your happiness, even if it doesn't include me. But just know, no matter where this life takes you, in the quietest part of my being, you will always be the name I speak without sound, the memory I carry without regret, the love that didn't end, it just transformed. And maybe, one day, when our eyes meet again, even if just in a crowd, you'll see the man you always believed I could become, and you'll smile, not because you're still mine, but because you'll know you were never forgotten, you were always loved, and you changed everything.